It's Friday night, and we are going to run our normal Friday night tournament. It's in two sections. Here we can see it. Friday night fights under 16, Friday night fights 1600 plus. Then we've got 3 arenas this weekend for rapid chess. They're all on Sunday now instead of Saturday. All 3 are on Sunday. Look at that. So yeah, those are the events.
What is he doing?
Je fais un stream. Une stream.
Let's go upstairs and read a book.
Let's see which section is this. Friday night fights. Est-ce que j'ai besoin de la porter en haut? Ou ça va?
You want Daddy to carry you? No. No. I want a puppy. You want a what? I want a book.
Ok, on dirait que ça marche. On dirait que ça marche. Okay, what else? What else we got going on here? Oh yes, I can post the tournament on Twitter, and I could send out an alert on the Discord as well, right? Let's see. All right, so let's send it out. So say ChessDojo Friday night fight starting soon. Okay, that'll work. Now we'll go to this little thing here. God, how hard is it to open a file here? And go post that over in our Discord. Okay, this Sunday is going to be what? April 6th or something? Let's say something like that. If you're rapid, send it. Remove the embeds. All right, sent. Hello, Galrap. How are you? Oh, hey, Jalp. Yeah, I thought it went pretty perfectly, Richard. We tricked a lot of people, and we had a lot of fun. How are you doing, Dripman? Do you know anything about what the reception was of chess.com's April Fool's joke, the life review? Do you know how that played out? I saw the promo video for it, and I thought it looked like a good idea. The Dojo April Fool's joke, Tripman, was we had our weekly Dojo meeting. But instead of recording it, Jesse accidentally clicked the stream button, which is right next to the record button in OBS. And so we did our whole meeting on stream by accident, and everyone got to hear what our team meetings sound like. Yeah. Sam's 960 lifetime repertoire was good too. What houses are you visiting, Far Eastern? Jalp, you fell for every single April Fool's joke? That's funny. So, folks, Jalp fell for Lichess's April Fool's joke, which was apparently, they said that they had a new feature where you could flip the board mid-game. Like, if your position's really bad or something, you just flip the board. Then you have the advantage. And Jalp also fell for the Dojo April Fool's joke, even though Jalp would normally be in our meetings himself. And we did this meeting without him, and then he saw the meeting on stream. It was like, you guys, you're live. So Jalp, you're perfect for pranks and jokes and stuff. That's good. Like, the world needs people who make jokes, and the world also needs people who fall into the jokes. Yeah, flipping the board might not work if your opponent could do it too. Maybe it's like you've got a certain number of flips, Dabo. So if you outplay your opponent and they flip the board too soon and you like outplay them a little bit, now you've got like an extra flip in reserve or something, you know? I mean, I could imagine a variant of chess where like each player has 2 flips or 3 flips. Oh, right. Yeah, there'd be a problem because if the person never flips it and your advantage is growing and growing, you could never go all the way to like mate in 1 because then they'll flip it on the last move, huh? There would have to be some kind of extra rule in place around when you could or couldn't do the flip or something like that. Oh no, you're going to set a notification and be less fun next year. No. I just said that we like you the way you are, Jalp. Yeah. By the way, folks, did you see Magnus versus the World started today? Chess 960. I don't know if they call correspondence chess daily chess on chess.com the way they used to. Let's see what it calls it. Play, leaderboard. Bots, tournaments, variants, leaderboard, game history. I'm doing really well today, Gabriel. Thanks for asking. Although I am tired. I will admit that between streaming Friday night fights or going to bed, it's kind of a close call. Oh, actually, I swam at the gym, man, with Head of Dog. I just ran over to the gym and then swam. And how far I swam was not super far. I hadn't eaten, so I was a little bit low on fuel. Which every time I tried to swim a little bit faster, I could feel that there was just like a lack of fuel. But I swam about 25 minutes or so, which is maybe about 56, 58 laps, something like that. Well, the rule is you've got 24 hours to make your first move. So it tabulates votes for 24 hours. Every day it's going to take 24 hours Far Eastern. That allows people all around the world to have time to discuss and chat and vote and so forth. There have been really cool voting games in the past. So I'm supposed to give the world advice about this game. Oh, I see. Yeah. The world could like flag arguing about the move because it's a lot of people to get together. Oh yeah, exercise is awesome, Richard. It's awesome. But sometimes you got to make tough choices, you know, like do I exercise or do I eat or do I stream or do I take a nap? I guess another option. People can cheat, Jalp. The hope is that if 1 out of 1,000 people cheats, that's not going to sway the voting too much, right? You've got 100,000 people voting. So, and obviously people have been told not to cheat. So it's a matter of, you know, hoping that people would be interested in taking advantage of this opportunity instead of just cheating. To me, like the setup that black wants is e5 and f6 if possible. Question is if we go e5, bishop c4, how much does that bother us? I suppose we could play sort of a reciprocal bishop c5 against white. If we go e5, if we play f6 on the first move, white could play f4, we could play e5. That looks pretty acceptable too. I think either looks okay, f6 or e5 to me. Yeah, chess.com's not going to be policing people cheating so much, you know? We can't do anything fun because you guys don't trust the community. We have never had Dan Heisman on Mickelwald. But that could be, he could be a good guess. That's a good thought. Like, you can enjoy this event if you choose to, right? Or you could cheat and then not enjoy it and possibly also make other people not enjoy it, right? What? I don't know. You guys think I'm crazy for thinking the majority of people wouldn't cheat at something? What's stopping Carlsen from cheating? I mean, again, you know, his whole life, career, etc. His, you know, his personal image, integrity, everything. I don't know if chess.com is going to be. Honestly, I think the world should be able to put up a good fight without cheating. I believe in the crowds voting. I think some chess players really, you know, respect and love the game, so they wouldn't defile the game by cheating. I think it's a very small number of people who cheat. I'm surprised people even talk about it this much. Like, why is your first thought when there's a chess game, like, what's keeping people from cheating? The fact that they want to play chess? What's keeping them from not cheating? What's going on here? All right, folks, you want to join the tournament and play? Shall we play? The tournament games start in 13 minutes. I've played Vote Chess against Chess.com before, Dabo, and I lost. I also played me and Danny against the world, so I even had Danny to blunder check me, and he had me to blunder check him, and we discussed our moves and played, and we lost to the world. So I don't think I would destroy them. I think I would lose to the world. Yeah, the world can talk to each other about what move to make. See down here, they can talk together. I wouldn't, Dabo. I wouldn't. Oh, Jalp is playing today? All right. Nice. Folks, today is a not once-in-a-lifetime chance, but still a great chance to play somebody from the Chess Dojo staff, Chess Dojo team. Playing Magnus might be once in a lifetime. But there's, 3 or 4 chances here or there to play, one of the senseis, or in this case, one of the coders. And Jalp is playing in the 1600 plus section tonight. So, someone might get a game with him. How lovely. Hey, Matthew. Let's check how the under 1600 section looks. The over 1600 needs one more player, but we've got 9 minutes to go. We'll probably get them. Let's see about under 1600. Under 1600, we got 4 people already. We're good. We're good to go, Richard. Ash, we're going to have a dojo tournament in about 8 or 9 minutes. When I say tournament, people are going to mostly play a single game, a single serious game. It's going to last a couple hours. I'm going to do commentary. That starts in 9 minutes. Right now, I'm just chatting people up, basically starting the stream as a way to let people know, hey, the tournaments are over. Come on in and play, So that's what we'll be watching in a moment, will be the tournament. This is classical, Matthew Crossart. This is classical. The dojo calendar has been broken somehow, Adam. Via something in Google Calendar that was broken. That, an update that got loaded in. And Jack has just been made aware of it a day or 2 ago. So he should be fixing it soon. Yeah, Matthew, every Friday night we play classical chess. I know for you it's Sunday. Or I think I know for you it's Sunday. I mean, I expect you're in Japan at the moment. But at this time, right now, whatever time this is for anyone out there, we play classical chess in the dojo every week. It should be Saturday for Matthew. Did I misspeak and say Sunday? I should be in bed. But fair enough, Donnie. I also do not have. I've never played a game on my phone. Never played a game in live chess on my phone. I hear you, Adam. It's nice that the kids at least sleep till 7:30, but it sounds like you are on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. So even though I'm going to get up at 6 a.m., I still have some more time to go. One thing about this tournament, Adam, is you could just watch half an hour of commentary, and then you could play a game tomorrow maybe with somebody, somebody else on East Coast time. Yeah, every week, Matthew, you could put it on your calendar or something. Apparently, the Dojo calendar has been broken, but here's today's info for today's tournaments. Folks, you see there are 2 sections based on, roughly 1,600 chess.com rapid rating is kind of like approximately the cutoff. But if you have a strong preference for 45-30 or 90-30, you could play in the other section if you really wanted to. Yeah. Well, chess.com unfortunately only has rapid ratings, but this is a classical game we're looking at. So, Jout, you're looking at a 90 plus 30 with somebody here. Right on, Matthew. Mine too. Actually, I like 40 moves in 2.5 hours, followed by 20 moves in an hour, followed by 20 moves in an hour. Plus 30 seconds, plus... Hey, Adam. Yeah, it says classical chess, but you are one of the few people who can read. And in this case, there are 2 sections. One of the sections is 45 plus 30, and the other is 90 plus 30. You can find the Dojo tournaments like here in general. We do have rapid tournaments on the weekend, every weekend as well. This weekend, we're moving them finally from Saturday to Sunday. We're going to try that for a bit and see if that's better. If you lose to the opening trap, you have 90 minutes to figure out. No. When you think you might be falling into an opening trap, use some of your 90 minutes before you fall into it. Once you've fallen into it, it's useless to have 90 minutes on the clock, right? So if you sense a trap or you sense something that's a big deal or something really dangerous, take some time out of your piggy bank and spend it. Hey, ZJ. Let's see if 1600 plus got their 4th player, shall we? See if their tournament's holding. Nope, not yet. Yo, Chess Pawn. One of the best things about classical, says ZJ, is being able to just take a stroll during the game. Chill yourself out. These are not FIDE rated games, Adam, no. They are chess.com rated games, I suppose. They're on chess.com. All right, folks, there's 4 minutes left, and we do need 1 or 2 more players if we're going to have tournaments. Anyone want to play tonight? I'm with you, Far Eastern. I'm with you. The thing is, you're talking about the 30 plus 0, right? That those time controls that we give in the games guide, those are minimums, Far Eastern. You are welcome to play with more time. You just have to convince one other person to play you a game with more time. There's nothing that says 30 plus 0 or whatever it might be is the time control you have to use. It's just a minimum. So, just tell people to... I would love to play you, Gabriel. It's just my job is to commentate, That's my task here. Fair enough, Matthew. You join when you want to. It seems you stumbled upon this as a surprise today. Which reminds me, Matthew, of like how much we need to get some more communication going, even within the Dojo team. That like you should know what the tournaments are, and the person posting on social media, so you should know what the tournaments are, etc., etc. I don't know about that, Adam. What's your rating? What's your strength? I don't know if you'll get smoked every game. Last time I checked, the lowest player in that section was rated 700, right? You know, whether or not you get smoked depends on how good they are compared to you, I guess. Oh, you shouldn't feel that, Far Eastern, you know. There's no issue with the integrity of the round robin. The round robin has a minimum time control. You guys play whatever time control you want. We have had players rated 300 in previous weeks, yes. I'm just saying for this week, well, Adam's looking at the lowest player this week is 700. Stamen wants to see some good end games. Me too. By the way, folks, games are starting in 1 minute. So for anybody in the tournament, it's time for me to talk to those who are actually playing, okay? Those of you who want to watch and just like kibitz and comment with me, you're cool. I'll be with you in 1 minute, okay? But let me now address our contestants for tonight. So first of all, make sure that you're somehow like active in live chess. You know what I mean? Like sometimes chess.com at the start of a tournament will say, oh, this person's been idle for 5 minutes. I won't pair them or something like that. So you have to really be in your live chess somehow, you know? I don't know, like click on a square like me or draw an arrow. So chess.com is like, oh, that guy's really there, you know, or she's really connected right now. She wants to start her game. Number 2, prepare to set aside any distractions if you can while you play your game, right? That includes me. Once your game starts, you should mute the stream or close the stream or minimize the stream or something, right? So you focus on your game. As soon as your game's done, you can come back to the stream and hang out with us and talk about your game and everything, right? But during your game, we want you to just focus on the game. We have had people in the last couple weeks who are maybe newer to the dojo coming in, and they're chatting with me during the game, and they're saying, hey, my opponent hasn't moved yet, or I'm thinking about this song I heard yesterday, or David, what opening should I play next game? And it turns out they're playing a game at the same time as they're chatting with me. You know, for all I know, I might be talking about their game, and then they'll hear my suggestions for them. So we're starting in 5 seconds. Buckle up, buttercups. I wish everybody a great game. Have fun. I'll be here when you're done to walk you through the processing part. All right, guys, let's open up some of these games here. Howdy, Cross. Oh, we got Hockey Chess Dude playing classical chess today. Woo! I think he's on the East Coast. I mean, he's doing what he's got to do to find a moment where his kids can't stop him, huh? I guess, something like that. We got Chamomile here waiting for a game as well. Kostya. Angry Nartya. Angry. Very angry. Goes up against the king of all blunders. Well, if your opponent blunders a lot, maybe that'll take away some of Angry's anger. Leviathan is always practicing everything, you know? Here's Mushin's game. D4, D5, Knight C3. White says, I want to play E4. Black either says, I didn't see that, or I don't care, and allows it. And white does not play E4 when allowed. Interesting. Then we've got another game here between Nukdai and Richard. And this is an advanced Carl Khan. Very good. Let me check that the 1600 group, did they have enough people? Did their tournament get started for them? Yes. So 1600 plus has a couple games going. They've got a middle game, Gabriel Cumming going up against Jalp. Black here, fire in eyes, love in heart, is a member of the Chess Dojo team. One of our coders. And here we have Where is the Bread versus, I don't know if it's 8 passenger or very important passenger. But here we've got sort of a Queen's Gambit Nimzo hybrid going on already. And we will get into the 1600 plus games a little bit later, but we're going to kick things off with the under 1600 games. So let me go back to that group, under 1600 arena, copy it, go here, get it. And let's open up these games. So Leviathan and Hockey Chess Dude. Chess.com has hidden all my games from me. Come on, Chess.com. Give me something. There we go. All right. Let's see what's happening here. C3, huh? C3 Sicilian very quickly into a position I don't know that well because of this quick E5 counter from Donnie Tsu. Donnie, by the way, trying to play a classical game on their phone because the computer would not work today. It's going to be tough. Let's see how this move works out. So it leaves the d-pawn way behind, right? C5 and E5 so quickly. But black's got a knight out and white doesn't, and black is like fighting over this territory. What did white come up with? Knight F3 supporting these squares. There's a lot of pressure on those squares. I could imagine black having some real chances here. You could play D5, you could throw a check. Black played Knight F6 attacking this pawn. Okay, I get it. White should play Knight C3 maybe, or it's certainly plausible. White does play Knight C3. And now Donnie having a think-a-dink. Sorry, ZJ, I may have missed your question. Apologies, let me check. Can it be beneficial or might it be harmful for improvement if you make a second account to practice new openings? I don't think it matters, basically. You can practice a new opening on your main account or on an alt account. Should be about equivalent. Howdy, Luke. How you doing today? So I think main moves that black would be looking at here would be like bishop b4 or d5. Now d5 would be exciting. I love me a pawn box. Just mind-boggling complications in just 5 or 6 moves, right? It's interesting that in chess, within 5 moves, you could have a position that even a GM can't calculate, right? It's just out of hand. And then bishop b4 might be a little bit safer because the development's going quickly. I guess if there's anything wrong with bishop b4, it would be d5. That would be the move you'd have to calculate. Yeah, and then I don't know how safe it is, actually. Yeah. Hard to say. I guess we would have to just bounce back. And knight e5, knight e4 is probably fine. But bishop d3, d6, there's queen a4. So bishop d3, we'd have to maybe go knight g6. Castle, castle. Yeah, it looks playable for black, not the end of the world. So I'd say black has permission to try this move or this move. Off the top of my head, I wouldn't be a huge fan of pawn takes pawn here. But black did just play that. My concern is if white goes knight d4, am I sure that I can counter, or am I just settling for a slightly worse position? You're 729, Adam. Well, there's somebody else rated exactly 729 in the tournament, but they already got paired. Or 737, but they already got paired. You see, they're playing over here. White against the Caro Khan. So, yeah, potentially you could have been fine in the tournament. And in general, oh, yeah, sorry, you might not know this, Adam. In general, the chess.com pairing software for these tournaments tries to pair you against the one person closest to you in rating. Right? So they won't pair you against somebody at the top or somebody at the middle. In general, they'll pair you against the person closest to you in rating. So you would probably have been paired with the fellow rated 737 had you been able to play tonight. That said, I know it's like 11 p.m. for you, right? But if one day you're looking at one of these tournaments here, the thing is, this tournament, you only play one game. You know, it's classical chess, so you play one game. So you would have played one game against somebody rated 737 if it hadn't been too late for you. And you're 8 rating points apart. There's no way, I don't think there's any way to know that you would get smoked. Okay, so happy birthday to ZJ, and just an hour. ZJ apparently also sort of on the East Coast time zone. Turning 19 in an hour. Awesome, ZJ. Oh, that's such a great age to be. Man, very nice. And Melt Like Butter, tell us what you did. What did you do to get the OTB feel in your in your online game? So here, I think Luke wants to know, who do I think is winning? Nobody's winning yet. White set a trick here with this h4 move, which is that if black just sets up their pawn structure, right, which is a basic thing to do in this opening, white can play g4, and the bishop has no way to escape white's pawns because he's kind of trapped outside of his own pawns, right? No way to go back in. And wherever he goes, there's just white pawns catching him. So that would be immediately losing Luke if black allowed that. But what you can see in the game, black played h5, stopping g4, making space for the bishop. And so nobody's winning or losing yet, right? White took a little bit of space, black developed a piece, white developed a piece. All logical. All logical. Really yummy buffet. Buffets are particularly good for 19-year-olds. Yeah. Particularly good because a 19-year-old can eat for a long time. It's like the prime age to be a competitive eater or a competitive buffet slayer. Oh, Melt Like Butter. Yeah, so here's a little trick, folks. Melt Like Butter put the Pieces font on the computer to blindfold. So then they couldn't really look at the screen at all, and they were forced to just look at their chess board. And when they made their move, then they would go enter it on the screen, but they were never really calculating on the screen. Makes sense. Okay, we've got another move. Black now finished this pawn structure, and white keeps developing. Looking fine. I think black's position is pretty acceptable and solid. They'll be able to counter white's space eventually like this. It'll cost some time. They go for it. So now they're going to be a tiny bit behind in time, but personally, I don't think there's any dramatic way for white to take advantage of that. So I would also have played c5, even though, you know, if we were being ultra prudent, we might develop one of the knights to e7 or d7 or h6 first. But I would probably have played c5 so I could put my knight on c6 where I really want it. Yeah. I like it. Let's check on this other game. We got the Italian opening from Galrav against Hockey Chess Dude. D3. So white's going to maneuver for a while. They're not going to try and blow open the center. And black counters quickly in the center. Hockey Chess Dude had a real think about that move, by the way, d5. It is a perfectly good move. Standard move in this position. Say, okay, if you don't want to play d4, I'm not going to play your really, really, really slow maneuvering game, right? And just d5. This is going to force a pawn trade in the center. E takes d5, knight takes d5. And then the normal move for white is rook e1, attacking this pawn and forcing black to find a way to defend and justify their center, yeah? And I don't remember exactly what you're supposed to do about rook e1. But to me, candidate moves are bishop g4 and knight b6 when the time comes. Here's what I know you don't really want to do as black. After rook e1, you don't want to protect this pawn with... Rook e1's just been played. You don't want to protect this pawn with f6 because of this. So white is able to then play d4 right away, continuing the fight over the e5 square, but you've got this tactical problem that your knight can't move and is starting to fall under serious threat, right? The bishop and the queen. So I know that f6 is a bad move here for Hockey Chess Dude. Bishop f6 might be playable, but I don't love blocking the f-pawn. I want eventually to play king h8 and use my f-pawn. And I think Hockey Chess Dude would be of a similar preference, but it's a matter of, can we figure out how to defend this pawn in the meantime? You can't go bishop d6 because if bishop takes d5. So one risky move is you go here and keep the knight from taking, and then if they go h3, bishop h5, g4, bishop g6, you sack the pawn, but they've done this to their king, right? And then, you have to have some kind of calculation maybe to figure out whether this is justified or not right here. Probably it's okay for black. My instinct is this is okay, but I don't know for sure. The other move that makes a lot of sense to me is knight b6. Knight b6 has a trick that if white takes the pawn, they lose. It doesn't actually work out because this is not just a trade on c4. The queen is undefended after white takes the pawn on e5. So it takes a little tactical vision to see that element. But so knight b6. Yeah, totally, Adam. We do this every week at this time, but it's also the thing is set to be open for 24 hours. So like you could potentially play your game on Saturday instead of Friday night if that worked better for you, depending. And your section, the under 1600, plays a time control of 45 minutes plus 30 seconds. So their games often go about an hour to an hour and a half. So yeah, have a good night and a great weekend with your kiddos. And we'll see you another time. So against this move, I guess white could play bishop b3 or bishop b5. If they go bishop b5, your pawn's in great danger, right? Like even protecting it doesn't protect it now. So once they go bishop b5, maybe then you play f6 because the bishop's not on this diagonal. And then if white plays d4, it looks rather playable for white, honestly. The other thing I was thinking was knight b6. They might go bishop b3, and then bishop f5 looks like a very clean move for black. We don't defend e5. We just counterattack this pawn. And you can see that black's pieces are out faster than white's here. So whatever skirmishes start here, the instinct is that skirmishing is going to favor black here. And I don't know. I mean, we could double check things, see how wrong I am, right? Like this one doesn't seem to work, right? Rook d8, queen f1. Maybe even my most basic variation is wrong. You see how tricky it is? Yeah, you guys all know it's tricky. You were just hoping that I would clarify something instead of just saying, yeah, it's tricky, and even I can't calculate it. Good luck, everybody. That looks like it doesn't even work for black, does it? Our bishop's attacked, so there's no time for this stuff. And when we take, white takes. And what are we doing here? If I do this, the queen trades herself. I have to take back, rook takes, and the bishop's covering my mate. Huh. I can't quite figure it out. So good luck to Hockey Chess Dude. Let's see how much time he spends on it. He plays that bishop f6 move I mentioned, just defending it with pieces as needs be. And spent a couple minutes, which was good. And that's probably a good move. I don't know. Okay. So, you know, the opening's costing Charlie a bit of time. 10 minutes used on the first 8 moves. Definitely costing some time and some effort. But so far, all the moves look good, at least. Let's check in on maybe Kostya and Donnie. Luke wants to know what I do in my free time. What free time, Luke? I feel like you've been around here before, Luke. You should know I have no free time. If I had free time, I would read books or go swimming. Going swimming is something I do pretty consistently. I basically take the time out of my work time to swim. Reading books, swimming, talking to my friends, playing chess, playing 1 or 2 other games, and writing rap songs. But one's need for free time is a little different when, like, your working time is playing chess or talking about chess. It's already fun. Oh yeah, and sometimes when I'm really dead tired at night after the kids go to bed, sometimes I watch Netflix. That sort of comes and goes. Sometimes there's something that I'm interested in, sometimes there isn't. But generally, I try to watch something in a foreign language in order to learn a foreign language. Evil little time goblins. Whoa! This move was a surprise that black launched. If we compare this to like a Scotch position that would have pawns on c2 and c7, the comparable moves that look plausible to me for Donnie are developing the bishop, right? Either to c5 or b4. A, development's good. B, it's getting you closer to castling. 3, both those moves actually place threats on white and put your bishop on a good square. So those moves look good. This move looks super weird. And the idea was some kind of early knight attack. It's bizarre. White went for their own attack, threatening checkmate on f7. And black sent white packing. And then hit white with bishop c5. And suddenly this thing is weirdly working out for black? How did knight g4 and h5 somehow work out for black? Now, folks, remember, white's got more time than black. It's more plausible for white to play some extravagant or aggressive moves. We're talking about black here spending 2 moves to do something extravagant, and somehow it seems to be sort of working out. KRV, right? Lately, I've mostly been working on my Spanish. But I've watched shows in all kinds of languages. As long as it's a foreign language, it's sort of interesting to me to try and pick something up. I saw an interesting show on Netflix about a like Roma or Gypsy young woman living in Poland. So it was in a mix of like Roma and Polish, and she was in sort of like, a really tense, mixed culture situation because she was into hip hop and was trying to become a rapper, and that wasn't cool with her family. And then there was some tension between like I don't know Poland well enough to be describing this stuff correctly, maybe, but it was like between like maybe ethnically Polish, or people who'd been in Poland for generations and spoke Polish. There's some tension between them and the Roma population. It was a very dramatic show, very interesting. Am I still going to release a rap album? Asks Brap, 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 brap. I don't think I'm going to release a rap album. I'm just going to occasionally release a song here and there, I don't think I have like the time to really put something together as an album, so to speak. And I don't even have like a collaborator, like a dedicated collaborator to help me with like the beats and stuff. So I sort of shop them around online, and I don't know if I've got the rights to them for anything kind of commercial or whatever. So, I just post them for free on my channel. I think that's okay. So a problem for white here, Far Eastern. White did play bishop e3, and black did take it. A problem for white is that if you take with the queen, you lose the bishop on c4. Oh, my God. Donnie grabs a free piece. Queen retreats, and the knight gets away. And we've caught up with the live situation. So for the moment, black got away with a full extra piece here, folks. Oh, man. That was kind of magical for Donnie. So actually, white needed to take back with this pawn. Ugly as it is for your structure, you got to keep your pieces on the board, That was the queen's duty, was to back up this bishop. And I think this queen f3 move was like pretty bad, right? And that's kind of what's happened here is white went for this punish on f7, and black just defended it while hitting the queen and the bishop, and then suddenly white's just backpedaling, right? And black's attacking. If the knight moves, black would have taken on f2. So then white's doing this, and yeah, here goes black. Cool statement. I speak a little bit of Mandarin because I once lived in China for a bit, but I haven't seen much in Mandarin on Netflix, which is the only streaming platform, the only streaming thing that I have. So, yeah, I would love to watch some stuff in Mandarin or Japanese so I could get better there, because I have a basis already. Like Spanish, I watched a bunch of shows, or not a bunch of shows, but the shows are really long, right? So I watched maybe 2 or 3 shows, but they're 80 episodes long or something. I don't know. I didn't even want to know how many movies that's the equivalent of. A lot. But I focused a little bit on Spanish because I already had some basis, and so it was easier to improve my Spanish. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with where my Spanish is. So if I could find some good stuff in Japanese or Chinese, I'd probably want to focus on that next. All right, so now white plays f3, supporting the e-pawn, but it's certainly too late to stop these knights from harassing white all over the place. Black continues playing aggressively. Wow. Is your Japanese fluent, Matthew? Like you don't have to do any work on it? White could have played h3 as soon as black played knight g4. Let's look at what Stamon's saying. Mandarin is dope. Yeah, every language is, in David's opinion. So when knight g4 came, Stamon's wondering, should h3 have been played to just sort of deal with this immediately? Maybe. The thing is, there's a couple kind of spicy moves, Stamon, that black could try in response, other than retreating the knight, right? There's knight f2, which you have to calculate, which is a bit tricky. The idea is to then play either bishop c5 or queen f6 or queen h4. Plus, there's all three of those moves without taking on f2, and there's queen b6. Right? And even if white is right and none of those moves work, right? If none of these moves work, and notice how queen h4, this pawn can't take, right? Because of here. So it's forcing g3, and then the queen bops back and hits these. So you have to calculate this position with your pawn on g2 or on g3. If all of that doesn't work, black also has knight e5, right? Hitting the bishop and then just keep developing. And black hasn't like lost too much. So h3 is a consideration. Unfortunately, it's like a move that takes a lot of effort to figure out if it works or not. So somehow this knight g4 thing is like not so obvious what white should do about it, was it? That's weird because the move does not look that good. Maybe white should just castle to defend f2. Maybe that's the safest of the moves. I know it looks like you're kind of castling into black's knight, but we do have more pieces around, right? So if black tried to attack us like this, I mean, knight f3 is a pretty simple answer, and h3 might also be fine. So maybe castling would have been my favorite or safest move here. Okay. Yeah, I am fluent in French. I started French at age 4, and I've kept it up throughout my life. And, you know, I listen to music in French and stuff I keep up with French culture and stuff too. What would I do if I just won a chess game? Usually feel great, Luke. Usually I feel great. And then look over the game. Talk about the game with my opponent or with my friends. Yeah, black could keep throwing pawns at white, Far Eastern, for sure. But I sort of just believe in the person who's got more pieces out. Hang on, it sounds like my kids might not have gone to bed. I'll be right back. Oh, man. One thing that basically no kid will ever do is go to bed on their own. That's just a pipe dream. Okay. So, black came out up a piece, and now they're on the attack. Queen b4 check. Knight retreats to c3. Black grabs another piece. Donnie. Everything's working out for Donnie. No. White gives the rook for a counterattack. But does white have the juice to make something of it? No, it's a knight trade. And Donnie is up a rook and a bishop scot-free. Wow. Great start to the game for Donnie. Wow. Yeah, no G-mates. I'm not playing viewers. I'm watching viewers. Hey, Canty. There can be only one. May it be Grandmaster Canty, the Highlander. Welcome, welcome, welcome in. Let's give a shout out to our buddy, Mr. Calculation over everything. Folks, there's a link there showing up, a little heart with which you could follow GM Canty. And I guess that would mean giving him some love. And to Raiders, welcome to Friday Night Fights. This is one of the greatest things I know about right now in the chess world. It is every Friday night, folks are going to battle one-on-one, classical time controls as if they were at a serious OTB tournament. They put everything into these games, folks. They put everything in, all the blood, sweat, and tears. And, some people are tired Friday night, right? After a whole week at work or wherever. And, or with young kids, like some of us are. They are, yeah. And then they have to pull out that extra gear. It's tough. It's tough, but week after week, we find people just putting in fantastic efforts, growing their games. You've heard all that noise about grow the game, right? Psst. People here are growing their game. They are getting better every week. They're learning to use their time, growing in patience, learning to respect their opponents, look for their opponents' resources. All of that stuff, just on a totally different level from rapid chess or blitz chess. And of course, everybody is welcome to partake and join. You can just come in and watch, of course. You're also welcome to play yourselves. It's every week. You can come on in anytime and play a game with the dojoer. And we'll be happy to see what kind of skills you've got. Let's click to another game now that Donnie is just emerging with this beautiful, beautiful advantage here. Let's see how Leviathan and Hockey Chess Dude are coming out of their opening. So, where we left off, Hockey Chess Dude had defended this e-pawn from White's pressure. White's going to develop that knight and make a beeline for this bishop to try and grab the bishop pair. Gets there. And, Hockey Chess Dude says, yep, you're going to win this guy at some point. I'm just going to keep, developing. Bringing out the pieces. I think there is an option that once the knight's here and the rook can't take on e5, I think there might be an option to drop back and keep your bishop pair if you're really precious about bishops like I am. The question is, if white goes some version of knight g5 going after this bishop and here, is there a good answer to that? I don't see one, so I think black's probably right to leave the bishop on f6 and just keep developing. Yeah, that would be great, Melville. We would love to have you try it out sometime. Yeah. All right, so what is Hockey Chess Dude going to do next? This piece is a little bit jammed up, right? It's like white could take it, but you almost just want white to take it so your pieces can move again. Meanwhile, you can't move your queen away from the bishop. You can't move the bishop anywhere. Kind of annoying. The only useful move I see is rook d8, but then I don't really know what I'm going to do next. And given that they're playing classical chess, Hockey Chess Dude might want to have an idea already of what he wants to do next after this move here. But another theory of like decision making and, you know, time management is you just play the move you got to do, put the rook on the open file, see what white does, and then worry about the hard stuff next move. Honestly, that's probably what I would do even in a classical game. There's a pretty good chance I would just kind of bash out rook d8 and then deal with things next move. I don't think anybody's winning yet, Luke Wright, but I would guess that white has like a very small advantage. You know, you can count the pieces are all equal. And the positions both look reasonable, right? Nobody's got like a horrible position. Everybody might be a cheater, Junkyard Justin, but it's very, very rare. And even more so in the dojo. So I would say the odds are minimal. Yeah, no need to worry about it. So basically, because white can always grab the bishop pair at some point. That makes me prefer white a little bit. Oh, you know what? I know one of the reasons Hockey Chess Dude might have been thinking, because there is this idea. Right? And that would actually be annoying. Where by annoying, I mean, you know, losing our pieces is annoying. Donnie, when you finish a game, that should automatically be it. You should be done. You can probably like X out of the tournament, but people are expected to play one game, and that's the end. So I think you have to click a button to get a second game, to get paired for another game. I think the default is it puts you on some kind of a pause. So congrats, by the way. You did it. On a little cell phone, no less, huh? Also, we watched your game, so you can check out the VOD sometime and see what we thought. Exactly. There's a button that you just have to avoid pressing. Sometimes people accidentally press it. They're like, "Ooh, another game. I shouldn't. They press and they're like, "No, I'm in another game." Yeah, mobile chess is not the business. I hear you. So this would be a problem for Hockey Chess Dude. So rook a d8 means if white takes, Chess Dude's probably planning to take back with the knight, like this. But then, what's the calculation here? Hey, Marble. Yes, I do remember you. I know we've talked, but would you mind reminding me of your rating? I'm feeling it's like 1900, but you'll have to excuse me that I do talk to probably thousands of chess players, and I also don't sleep well at night, so I don't remember every detail. See, if white took here, this would sort of... Kostya? It was in the lunch box. If white took here, this would all make sense for black, right? The bishop pair's already been traded off. The rook's well placed. Queen's coming to f5. Knights are on good central squares. Everything's good. So the only question for black is... Wait, what happened? Has this already happened? No. The only question for black is if we took with the knight, could white grab our pawn? Okay, you are 1900. All right. I got lucky that time. And that's the other thing, to like remember, like the rating only means something if I can remember whether it's on Lee Chess or chess.com as well, right? Because the rating systems are different on different sites. Let me pull up my Chess Dojo conversion here. So we've got a rating conversion here. Whoa. Stop spams. Okay. Got a rating conversion here. So Lichess, classical, 1900s is going to be like our 14 to 1500 cohort for tactics books. Then I can go book recommendations and go to 14 to 1500, and it'll say main recommendations for tactics, 1001 chess exercises for club players by Frank Erwich. All right, David Justice pointing out a beautiful option here in the position we were looking at a moment ago. So folks, let's turn our attention to a tactic in front of us. Yeah. Like one thing you can do, Marble, one thing you can do to get better at tactics is even beyond any books, it's just every time that we're here on stream looking at games, talking about things, you can be just calculating your little behind off, right? Like David Justice is doing over on the YouTube side of this stream, right? So I'm asking, like, is knight e5 a problem for black? And here you have to be calculating, right? Like if I go bishop b3 and they go knight c6 and I go pawn takes c6, or I go queen e1, or I go bishop d1, you know, who's coming out ahead or behind, right? And look at the variation that David Justice came up with. Knight e5, rook e5, and then just boom, opening up the attack on our queen. Straight up a beautiful tactic right before us, right? And this is better in general than the puzzle quality you get in almost any book or collection or online tactics trainer. Because these are real live situations where you don't know if there's a tactic or not. You don't know if a certain move is going to work or not. Sometimes the position's equal. Sometimes it's losing. Sometimes it's winning, you know. So it's much more like natural, much more like what you would have to do in a game yourself, right? These kind of questions and situations that come up as we're kibitzing here. So bishop b3, the idea is rook takes queen, bishop takes queen, black's ahead a piece. Of course, white's got a pawn or two, but it's not going to be enough. And queen b3, queen e7, right? So then another tricky line is going to be, what if they play, you know, queen e2 or queen e1, defending the rook, and the bishop's still hanging, right? How is this working, Marble? What do you think? Knight e5, rook e5, bishop e3. A pretty sweet checkmate. That's cool, Junkyard. It's good that you can appreciate that for an opponent, you know? My rating, Luke, is in the 2300s in FIDE right now. And, you know, before I had kids about 10 years ago, there was a period where I played sort of professionally, and I was 2400. So knight e5, rook e5, bishop takes, queen moves, clever, right? But black has a defense, bishop e6, saving the bishop and the queen at once, and black comes out winning. So David Justice solved this position for us, right? Some of us were just sitting around. David Justice was solving. So white shouldn't take on e5 because it actually loses to this. All right, so now let's see the game. In the game, after a long think, white played, or a medium think, white played queen e2. If I played Magnus 20 times, I would win 0 games, Junkyard Justin. Most likely. Yeah. You got it, Stamen. The bishop can retreat if the queen moves to protect the rook. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so queen e2 played by Leviathan. And now it is on Hockey Chess Dude here to make the next move. And this one's going to be tricky. H6 is one thought, covering a slightly weak square. And also, if we're going to lose this dark squared bishop, then we want as many pawns as possible defending the dark squares so this piece doesn't get too good. But again, we have to calculate this, and see if we're winning back our pawn or not. This time it doesn't feel like we do. Is that right, Donnie? Yeah, he raided while you were playing, right? If you don't mind my offering you a little tip, in general in chess you can't force things in different situations. Like if I want to play knight c3 against the Sicilian, right? So I'm playing white and I'm an e4 player, let's say, and I decide I'm going to play the closed Sicilian. I'm going to play e4, knight c3, f4. And then instead of playing the Sicilian, my opponent plays e5, e4, e5. I can't play the closed Sicilian against e4, e5. Or let's say they play the Caro. I can't just say, oh, I'm going to play knight c3, f4, right? Your moves need to respond specifically to whatever your opponent's doing. You're not just trying to replicate patterns or ideas you know. You're trying to assess what's my opponent's idea and what is my idea and what is a logical response to my opponent's idea, or can I carry through my plan? So you definitely don't want to... Okay, like if for a brief period of time you want to experiment with this h5 knight g4 idea against anything, you can do that as an experiment from which maybe you'll learn in which positions it doesn't work. But definitely, like the main way of playing chess, the normal mode, is you're taking into account what your opponent's doing. Okay? For example, there was a game here today that started with like a Jobava London kind of start. Was it maybe this one here? Yeah. Okay, so look at this one here. So knight c3. The point of this move is it threatens e4, right? With a good position in the center. Normally black plays knight f6, and then people put the bishop on this square, thinking it's a good square for the bishop, perhaps, right? On a fairly open diagonal. And then, you know, since you can't play e4, you're going to play e3, and then your bishop will be outside of the pawn structure. But in this game, black played e6, and white just plays bishop f4 anyway, not adjusting to what black has done. Since black played e6, white can play e4 freely. That would be a good move for white, you see? So we should at least be thinking about what each move does and what does the opponent's move do, and, you know, we change based on what happens. And for example, you're saying your first instinct was to play bishop b4. My first instinct is that bishop b4 is the best move in that position. So take that also as sort of like a useful little tidbit, right? That your first instinct was the same as my first instinct. You know, maybe there's something to be said for looking at that sort of developing move and playing the moves that look like the right idea to you. Yeah. All right, so which game were we just on? We were here, Hockey Chess Dude. Hockey Chess Dude comes up with knight a5. That makes sense. But I guess the bishop could just drop back, right? Hang on. What are the other options? I mean, black's really going after our pawn here. Excellent, Donnie. Okay, this would be a standard move too, here. But then knight takes. If queen takes, there's this bishop g5 thing. I'm hurting. If knight takes, could knight e5 work now? Ah, now it's different. We got this. Black wins. There's back rank mate, so black can't take this or this just yet. Huh. Interesting. Okay, so rook e8 is probably a playable move here. Froggy Chess Dude. We've got a question in chat about knight f4. 2 people were interested in it. I also thought about this move, so let's have a little look. So this hits the queen. So we would expect white to take it, right? Because that piece is offending. Then here, takes, takes, takes. Maybe takes, maybe pawn takes, which is better. Technically, there's another candidate move, rook e8. But rook e8, white at least gets that pawn. I don't think black has real compensation for a pawn. So let's say we take like this. If white takes here, it's about equal because black gets this. But if white goes d4, black is a little bit worse, but maybe playably so. But black's definitely a bit worse here, MG, Weirdo, and Stamen, right? This is a pretty simple variation as far as like the calculation. It's just captures and recaptures, right? Take, take. Well, I traded 3 times, right? I took on f4, I took on f6, I took on e6. There's nothing much to think about. Here, black could take with the queen, but it's a little bit worse. Because in this position, it's even harder to hold your pawn because of knight g5. Whereas the first time I played fe6, d4, rook e8, and at least there's not knight g5. But black's a little bit worse. It's a candidate move. You could play this position, but you're worse. If this f-pawn were on f7, you'd be okay. But here, e5 and e6 are quite weak. And this pawn, if anything, is just overextended. So it's not very good. I would prefer rook e8 compared to that. And then let's see the move from the game. Knight a5. White goes bishop c2. That takes the pressure off of e6. So maybe now black could go knight f4. But this knight left the e pawn. Any tricks for white like this? That looks good for white. 19-3. Looks like white's doing great, having shattered black, but somehow at the end of all this, black takes this pawn and black's okay. Oh, knight c5, b4. White's coming out really good here. Up and outside passer, and this stuff is weak. Very long variation with probably some other options, but it does match what I expected, which is I expect white to be better here. Yeah. Luke, what I do for a living? Well, right now I don't really make a living, Luke. I spend some time taking care of my kids. My partner works more than I do and earns more than I do. I make a little bit of money off of what you're seeing right now, Chess Dojo. Not a living wage, but maybe almost half of a living wage. And then I have savings. From before I had kids, I worked a lot more. So I have savings from a previous project. These players are both playing a little bit too slow for this 45-minute time control, and they're right on that 1600 borderline, right? 1589, 1582, where they might prefer to be playing 90-30 instead of 45-30 or maybe 60-30 or something, but they're playing a little bit too slow, right? Because they're just transitioning from the opening to the middle game, and they've used, in Charlie's case, 2/3 of his time, and in Gaurov's case, more than 1/3 of his time, so they don't have a robust amount of time for the middle game, and they're going to have dregs for the end game. That's right, Stamen. Yeah, I got that position over here. Magnus Carlsen versus the world. I feel like Black should try to adopt an e5 f6 setup. That's my first thought about that game. Exactly, Donnie. Sometimes in a 90+30 game, you'd put this much effort into your opening because the quality level of the game is going to be higher with more time, and so you may feel more pressure to get a good position out of the opening. But it's just too much here. Their game's going to be decided more by time pressure than anything else, perhaps, in the end. Yeah, that's right, Simon. Fisher Random Chess, Magnus versus the world. It's part of what it's what Magnus is into right now, right? So that's part of him promoting his freestyle chess tour, etc. Well, Ash, there are 100,000 people registered to play the game. I don't think 100,000 people will use an engine. I don't think 0 people will use an engine. I think the number of people who use an engine will be between 10 and 100. Donnie, it's a correspondence game. There's 24 hours to move. So one day Magnus moves, the next day the world moves. Today was the first move. It was Magnus moved e4. By sometime tomorrow, the world will make its answer. And then the next day, Magnus will make a move. And then the next day, the world will make a move. The world will move by voting. So if you're on the world team, you come to this position and you just make a move on the board, I think, and then it counts as your vote. Yeah, a vote chess game. Okay, Charlie grabs some space. Planning to bring the knight back here cozy with this extra space grabbed. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Good play from him, other than, unfortunately, the time being used up. Let's click on this other game of Mushins, which I think looks interesting too. I have no idea, Stamen. I have no idea. Oh, nice idea from Mushin in the opening here, right? Sort of sidelining that bishop, setting up like a really strong pawn structure to limit it and kind of keep it trapped over there. Oh, but why go trap the piece once you've made it bad, Like you made the opponent's piece bad. So now just leave it. Let it be bad, right? Let it be. Wow, and here's like a slightly surprisingly aggressive move to me, right? White hasn't connected the rooks yet, and Black's starting some fight over here, and I'm wondering, do I need c3 to protect the pawn? Do I want b5? Do I want rook b1? And White starts a second fight. They don't finish development, and they don't deal with the first fight. They just say, let's have 2 fights. Yeah, Ash, I've been one of those people that you've heard of in stories. Welcome to the dojo, Mari. And also hi to you. Yeah, I mean, white's got this idea that bishops are a little bit better than knights, so you're hunting down a material win with knight a4, knight takes b6, right? But you also have to understand an average knight might be worth a tenth of a pawn less than an average bishop. You've invested a lot of time as white, even knight e2 instead of knight f3, right, to support c3. You've invested a lot of time making this bishop bad. After all that time we've invested, is this bishop still better than our knight? I would say no, right? So, yes, over the course of thousands and thousands and millions of positions, bishops are a tiny bit better than knights on average. But in this position, and a tempo is worth about 0.33 pawns in an opening MG Weirdo. In a closed opening, it's worth less, right? So it depends. This position is very closed, so a tempo might be worth, 0.1 to 0.2 pawns. But certainly, yeah, like a single tempo is definitely already going to outweigh the bishop pair usually in the opening. Every now and then I spend one tempo to get the bishop pair in openings. I tend to do that, yeah. But also knight a4, knight b6 is going to maybe develop your opponent's rook, so I don't know. This was an overplay by white going for this. So my point is, just because the average bishop is worth, 3.1 and the average knight is worth 3, in any situation where you're considering trading a bishop for knight or knight for bishop, you need to first ask yourself which piece is actually better or worse in that position, and then ask yourself if it's enough better or worse that you want to spend your time, your energy, the energy of your position pursuing that goal. Yeah? Okay, so white starts another fight, and now this game is, going to get pretty fun. Takes. Pushing without recapturing. Oh! Oh, still not recapturing. White goes for mate. White just took this game to an unexpected place very quickly. Black tries this f5 counter. Very interesting. The most basic counter is g6, right? And after g6, queen h6, you might say, how is white going to continue attacking, right? Black can just go take stuff here. Maybe white would continue attacking with knight h5. You can't take it because of h7. I can't leave the rook hanging, obviously, so let's just throw in rook takes, pawn takes. I was just in a hurry to show you guys how white might make some progress from this position. Knight h5 going after these squares. You can't take here because of mate. And then you might say, okay, the knight's here, but what of it, right? Okay, we'll play a2 to queen. White's got a castle to stop that. And now, let's say I put my queen here to back up this pawn. Knight f6. I can't go queen g7, by the way, unfortunately, folks. Do you see that we're not yet that close to checkmate? But I can go knight f6, pawn f6, and then black could do whatever, including queening, and we mate. Or let's say black sees that and decides not to move the queen away from this square, and they play something like, I don't know, knight comes somewhere. White can go bishop g5, kicking the queen, and then put a piece on f6, or even this move is checkmating. Just queen f8 next. Finally, black would have an idea like f6 to stop bishop g5. And white's got a number of plausible attacking moves here. There's bishop g6, takes. Here is very possible. And there's also, I was thinking a very simple move, pawn takes. If the knight takes, you mate, right? And if like the rook or queen takes, you take it with your knight and your head material. In other words, white's plan from this position is going to be, I guess, now to sack the bishop, or maybe bishop e5 or g5, preparing f6. So Yeah, actually, here's a good idea. Takes here. Maybe black holds on a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, very exciting. Very exciting. So G6 actually does leave white some real attacking ideas. That's all I want to say. I can totally see why black tried this slightly less usual defensive move, which is also aimed at like shielding black from this bishop and gaining space for these pieces to defend the king side. It's a good move. It's a good move. Well, sometimes chess is mostly about kingside attack, and sometimes it is not, Ash. Chess has so many different facets to it that it's not just about one thing. All right, so white just gets castled. So they didn't see any way to attack further here. You know, if pawn f6, knight f6 defends this checkmate and kicks this queen away, doesn't really look like white has anything strong. So, I mean, I do think that that black here came up with a really, really good move here. I think this is Constructor 1 playing black. Yeah, Constructor 1. Oh, Michael Wold from chat. So f5. And white decides, yeah, I can't take, I can't sack, I can't break through. I also can't recapture my pawn because of rook a1. So white castled. And then black goes up 2 pawns. Okay, MG Weirdo's got like one last idea we should look at. ef6, knight f6, bishop g5. The idea is to eliminate the knight and then checkmate on h7. And of course, the critical variation is what if black takes, right? And then white's going to take here. So it's a queen trade, but it's a complicated queen trade because pieces are hanging. So let's go back here, folks. MG Weirdo's idea is bishop g5. Let's do just a little, moment of thinking for ourselves, right, in chat. Do you guys think bishop g5 works for white or not? Can black take on h5? Should they? Does it come out? Who does it come out good for, so to speak? What are we thinking? Okay, Far Eastern saying even without calculating a bunch of deep stuff, from Far Eastern's perspective, if black trades queens, they're already doing fine. There's no attack from white, no juice. White was already down 1 pawn and probably 2 at some point because of this. So we don't need to look at too many more captures. The instinct is already, let's just get the queens off for black. That's reasonable, Far Eastern. But now try and push yourself one move further, like MG is trying to do. After knight h5, bishop d8, what are the next moves possible for black? Like, what are 1 or 2 candidate moves for black from that position? Right after the queen trade, we've got a bishop hanging on d8 and a knight hanging on h5, right? You're just going to have to excuse an occasional yawn today. I am tired. I rarely work as much as I did today. Had a great day. Started the day by recording a big old YouTube video on my best games with top 10, best games of David Pruess with Kostya, Jesse, and Sam Shankland as the judges. Then after that, we had our weekly dojo meeting. Some of you have seen what those look like on YouTube this week. And after that, I taught a private lesson. I haven't taught a private lesson in at least a year, I think. And then after that, I had 1 hour before picking up the kids, and I decided instead of eating like breakfast or lunch, I would rush to the gym and get a little workout in. So I did that, and then I went and got the kids. So I had dinner with the kids today, so I've had a meal, but basically I've really worked today. And then as we put the kids to bed, I started the next stream. So this is a very unusually fun day for me. Now, let's see. Sutovsky versus Nielsen. Yep, that's right, MG. Correct spelling. And it looks like there's some very good KRV. KRV001 has calculated pretty far with this. Putsy as well. Yeah, it looks like it comes out well for black if they go knight h5 and then knight g3. So knight takes, bishop takes. Far Eastern said if we take and takes, it's equal trades. Black's happy at the end of it. They can take on a3 with 2 extra pawns, right? Perfectly fine for black. Very, very safe calculation. But there is a completely knockout move. Knight takes g3, saving the knight that was going to get captured while capturing something. That's always a great move to look at, right? Is like, what can you do with your dying piece before it dies, right? Boom. The point is, if white takes it, that black's going to get this piece here for free. There's no knight on h5 to capture anymore. So now black's ahead 2 pieces to 1 in the endgame. And then we can go further, right? Okay, so white sees that taking back loses a piece. So white tries to keep taking things with their piece. Then black can take a whole rook. So that's the other really nice thing about knight takes g3 is your hanging piece ate a piece instead of dying itself, and then it captures the whole rook. So white can take on b6 at the end, and black is up a rook if they can save the knight. If they can't save the knight, it might not be so easy. And I think nobody saw this far ahead, but the bishop's blocked by this pawn, and the knight can immediately escape to f2, ensuring that black wins. I mean, a full extra rook in this endgame, you got it. That's it. Game, set, match, right? So that's a very nice line. As somebody pointed out, in the knight g3, hg3, white could get 1 pawn back on h7, but that's not going to upset the balance of black having an extra piece, plus black already is winning 2 pawns over on this side here. Yeah. But you guys don't need to see 6 moves ahead. I was just asking folks to try and look 1 move further ahead. Like after the trade, what does black do next? So everybody who said knight takes g3, you were right, and that was good work there. And yeah, that's all. I'm proud of you. Good work. Let's keep going with our game now that we've all done a little exercise together. Black took the pawn. White maneuvers the knight. c6. I don't quite see the point of that. Maybe black wants to get some new room for the knight. Maybe the queen wants to come out at some point. I would say like more normal would be to improve these 2 pieces because it's not as hard to improve them. You know, something like knight c4 and then either bishop b5 or even b5, b4. Saying, hey, this pawn's going to be enough to do it. You did, Ash. That's good work. Good work. That's about how far I expected, you know, the 1800s to calculate all the way to bishop takes knight on b6. Players over 2000 should have seen knight f2 at the end. Players under 1400, if you saw knight takes g3, that's good enough. Donnie thinks there's a grudge against the light squared bishop. It was like, I can see the sky. No, I see nothing. I see nothing. Thank you very much. I've got this bishop, it's like in a prison, right? But with like a slit of a window, right? I can see the world. Nope, nothing. Okay, so white moved the knight out of the way and then got straight back to attacking. You have to expect white's going to keep attacking you. A, they tried attacking you 3 moves ago. B, you're up 2 pawns over here, right? So, knight c7. Okay, so we were right at least about the point of c6. It was to cart this knight out here. Bishop g5. Queen h4. the knight keeps trucking. At least black definitely had a plan. And now the bishop retreats. Normally, as white, you'd be happy to make this trade, you know, because it turns this into a protected passer. But they're just kind of all leaving that tension. I guess black can't very well take, so white's not in a rush with it. Knight c4, though, I like this move. This move I've wanted for black. And now it even hits that piece, so I like that. Matthew, it was like a single lesson, not like a new regular student. So I don't know if I'm going to take on any regular students. I think I might do an occasional single lesson for someone just to give them like a profile and a bit more of like a personalized training suggestion. Yeah. All right. Well, our top board has already finished. So we're going to have a quick look at them. This game was somehow abandoned here by white, whether it was chess.com's fault or white's fault. We don't know. So we'll give both white and chess.com the benefit of the doubt for now. And we won't blame chess.com for it, and we won't blame white for it. The game was definitely still going, MG Weirdo, and you're right. The justification for bishop here, I guess, would be to bring the bishop out here. That's a very nice move, and white is still kicking. Still kicking, yeah. All right. So, let's go check out the time pressure of Hockey Chess Dude and Leviathan. And after we assess their situation, we're going to check out a game between Jalp and Gabriel Cumming, okay, folks? So let's just catch up on this one. C5, A4, knight came back, white gave the trade finally, and now white took with the queen, allowing bishop G5. And then white, oh my god, Hockey Chess Dude had seen this coming, folks. Had seen this coming. Against bishop D8, there's knight F4. That's the difference between classical chess and blitz. People don't blunder into this stuff. I know, Matthew. I will. I want to say I won't forget you. There's always a small chance I do forget anything. I can't promise to not forget things anymore because kids, as you understand now. But in theory, like, I would say I promise not to forget you. You know, on most days I'm aware. Yeah. So white plays D4. Wow, explosive action here. I guess black could, and it's attacking all these pawns. Man, oh man. Good night. Bishop F5. And so it looks like white did manage to grab the extra exchange for the moment. There was also this possible move for black, F5, right? And white still can't take because of knight F4. But I suppose what white could do then is just try to take one pawn. Knight takes, hitting the queen hangs the bishop. No, okay, not like that. Pawn takes. H6. Huh, surprisingly vicious. Bishop back here. I mean, I guess white's up a pawn. I don't exactly see how black regains it, but the position still looks very complicated. So that's definitely a possibility for black here, F5. What else could have happened? I mean, bishop F5 also makes sense, but here I was wondering about throwing in knight f4 before recapturing. Hits the queen. She's gotta go. My instinct would be to put her here, but that could be very wrong. Then, of course, my plan for black was to checkmate white. So I go here. White's got to go g3. I think I put the queen on the correct square because I'm defending the knight. Black plays f5. Oh, God. White's up a full rook right now because I have not taken the time to recapture yet for black. But you see... You do see how tense it is, right? I think knight e5 might be a saving move for white. Countering the queen. Any other move feels like really bad, right? I know I'm up a rook, but if I just retreat, at minimum, black has this repetition. Because we can't play a move like king h1, queen f3, and we can't even play, you know, king f1, queen f3, and bishop h4 or something. Black can even just play g5 and be up material, but surely they've got powerful attacking options as well. So this is just going to be losing. So black has at least a draw, maybe better. So f5, I think this would be the only move. Then we go knight check here. Takes, defending that piece. Boom. Takes. Oh no, there's knight f2 that can get out. So I'm going to just trade, and take. White is definitely still up like +1 or so. So I don't know if it's a win or a draw here. Maybe rook d1. Am I up enough that this is good for white? Yeah. Okay, so maybe the safest is we just play rook d1, countering the file, and we say white's winning. So if we take here, rook here, that's hard to say. It's +1, but it's kind of a coin flip if it's a win or a draw. With rook d1, I'm pretty sure I've got enough advantage to win because I'm up a pawn plus... I think white's king gets to this e-pawn faster than black's does. So that's going to be like a positional advantage for white. And this tension here is fine for white. If black moves away, white will take the pawn. If black ever takes, white will take with rook. King and pawn ending is lost, so this is basically like I get my rook to a good position with tempo. So after rook d1, I would guess white's winning, but it's like you're one mistake away from drawing, so it's right. You're just barely winning. That's pretty fancy, right? So you can see, I think this knight f4 move was pretty intense. But let's see what's happening in the game. Rook d8 was played, and white, yeah. If white grabs a pawn here, they might lose to knight f4. Certainly black will have good counterplay. So it's absolutely right to get out of the way of knight f4 immediately. Black hits the rook, and the idea is that when the rook retreats, black's going to win a pawn. So then it'll be knight and pawn against rook. Technically winning in most cases, but not easy to do. So white's going to be also considering moves like rook e5, playing with an extra pawn, versus rook e1, playing with the extra exchange. Ash, 2 pawns is almost a guaranteed win, with the exception of opposite-colored bishop endings. And 1 pawn is kind of like 55 to 60% of 1 pawn up endings are winning, and 40 to 45% of them are drawn. So a single extra pawn is kind of on the borderline of winning. That's why, like, if I've got an extra pawn and like 1 clear other advantage, then I'm kind of thinking that's enough. You won because of bad Wi-Fi, thank God for communism. Was your opponent in a communist country, no vest for the dreary? Okay, what was Leviathan's choice? Retreating and giving a pawn. Yeah, I think that's the best choice, but I expect this endgame is still quite tricky. All right. Sleep well, Luke. And have a great weekend afterwards. By the way, I should announce this now and then. Our normal weekend rapid tournament, this weekend is the first weekend that it's moved from Saturday to Sunday. So it will not be tomorrow morning. It will be on Sunday. We can go over it after this game, Gabriel. Yeah, after this Leviathan Hockey Chess Dude endgame. Then we'll post-mortem your game with Jaup. The idea is to make sort of a semi-permanent switch to Sunday Mista. Yeah. Like, I don't know for sure that it's going to work out, but the intention is to basically move it to Sundays. Yeah. All right. Capture, capture, capture. So there's that extra pawn. So this endgame's tricky. I basically believe that white can win because knights are not great in endgames with pawns on both sides of the board. Their value drops the most dramatically of any piece when you get into the endgame is the knight. I didn't see your game today, Noves. Sorry. I was starting off with the under 1600 games because usually the over 1600 games last longer. Though today they didn't. This particular position, it's not obvious how white wins it because black's knights are, very stable and controlling all the center. There's not a clear file. Sorry for that diagonal arrow. There's not a clear file for the rooks to use to win the endgame. And normally when you're up in exchange, the way you win with an extra exchange is you exploit an open file somehow. That shows the true power of your rook. And when your rook can get behind these pawns, like if your rook could get to a square like c7, then the opponent's position tends to fall apart in an endgame once you get a really active rook. Even if white could force a single rook trade, that would help white. If there was something juicy enough on this file that black had to play rook e8 and trade rooks with us, that would help white win. Here, the winning plan for white is not at all apparent, so we'll see what they come up with. Wow, Hockey Chess Dude advances the pawn. Are the knights going to be able to support that? Should the d4 pawn be considered a liability? Yeah, the d4 pawn is a liability, but also an asset, right? So it could be strong or it could be weak. It's one of the key features in the position. Advancing it, if this knight could get somewhere where it really supports it, could be good. But it could also get ahead. I'm not sure what black's planning to do. This pawn could sort of get ahead of itself here. So one plan for white, if black hadn't done this, let's say black played like a standard move like king f8. One plan for white would be you go like rook d2. Let's say black's just marking time, and you go here, right? As KRV was saying, gang up on the pawn. The thing is, even that plan is not obvious to me, KRV, because this is, okay, it was obvious in that it was the first plan I thought of. It's not obvious that it works, because black can go knight e4, hitting the rook, and if you take on d4 with the knight, you lose like all your stuff here. And if you take with the rook, you get the pawn, but you give back the exchange, right? If you go here, we just keep harassing you with a draw. And not only that, black could maybe, take on a4, let you take here, take on b2. It doesn't really look like you're winning that, though maybe you could. They could also play d3. Now that this knight's here, you go knight e1, they go knight b4. It's not really clear how you fight that pawn once these knights are in position defending it. Black has b6, a5. This would be an example of a good advance of Charlie's pawn, right? I said if this knight on f6 could get over to the queen side, then d3 could be good, as played by Charlie in the game, right? But I was surprised by this because the knight doesn't yet have a route over to here. It's kind of cut off along this file. So I'm not sure how he's going to hold his thing together after rook e3. Maybe a5 and knight b4 is going to be the big idea. But see, Brandon, here white can go rook e3, knight e1. Or knight e5. So this knight really needs to be able to either defend the pawn or like attack the squares next to it. You know, chase the opponent's pieces off. Maybe we could do something similar to that variation I was showing before where when they go here, we kind of attack the rook with the knight, but we have to be very careful because the first thought is to attack it here and then rook e4. You didn't lose the d pawn, but you lost the knight, right? So you could try like this. And then like black's a little tied up. I'm threatening rook d4. Tying you up even more. I think this pawn's kind of a goner, is my instinct. After d3. Just like a very high chance we can't quite support it. You see the issue is that this knight is not in great position to support that. But in the other line I gave, with king f8, you see once the white rook came off of the e-file, the black knight gets into position, the one from f6. Now, if black wants to, they can probably support d3, right? So now I do believe in this position for black. Because both knights are involved in this fight. Here I'm afraid that d3, this knight on f6, can't support the pawn properly. Is rapid the time control you like best, Gabriel, or just the time control in which you sort of perform the best? Is there an overlap between what you like and what you're most successful at? Leviathan's working here. Charlie had to move pretty quickly. You know, he's got 7 minutes for this endgame. So, you know, d3 came pretty quickly. Other options, a5, king f8. You know, a5 preparing just to have outposts for the knight on the queen side is logical. As well as king f8, just making it so there's not back rank mates if somebody takes on d4 or something. It's a clean move. You stop rook e7, which frees the knight up a little bit. King f8 is kind of basic. But okay, we've got a controversial move from Charlie d3, and Leviathan, I think, had about 17 minutes when d3 was played. So Leviathan's investing, you know, almost half their time on this choice. You like it best online and OTB classical, yeah. Cool. All right, we've been staring at the screen long enough. I'm going to look away for 5 seconds. I recommend everyone else do this also for your eyes. Just look at something at a different distance for a moment. Wow, I can't really read at this distance. I've been staring at my screen too long. Elephant. Emperor eggplant. Okay. It's fine. And I'm back. All right. We've got a move from Leviathan. Wow, the moment I looked away. Knight e5. Going after the pawn and seeking a trade. Yes, sir. That's a great move. On the surface, a great move. Now, we have to confirm it's a great move with a little calculation, right? d2. Strategically, it's a good move, right? And white spent 6 minutes on it, so he's probably calculated somewhat. But the idea from black would be d2, kicking this rook. It's got to keep the knight safe. Once it comes to e2, it's not protected anymore like on e1. Rook e8. All right? Now this piece can't move. So now f4 is required. I don't see anything great for black. You know, the pawn looks like a goner. I think I can maybe win the f4 pawn while white's cleaning up d2. That's sort of the best I see, and that's helpful for white. The rooks are just getting much stronger with this pawn trade. So let me show you. I might be miscalculating, but this is my first thought is this move. Threatening knight f4 and threatening f6 because the rook's undefended. So I'm going to play something really simple for white. I'm going to play rook takes here, threatening this knight. And then the knight's going to come here, I think. And then I'm just going to trade this off. Now, do you see how this made it easier to win for white than before, the trade of these pawns? Do you see a new degree of power to these rooks? We can even trade one, which makes things even easier. I don't want to confuse people with too many factors at once, but basically one of my rooks is going to go to the A pawn because I've got a root there now. And nobody's going to come save that A pawn. That's it. You know, that's the win, but I don't know if you can feel it coming in the air tonight already in this position before I show you this rook d8, rook d7 variation. I want you to be able to feel in this position that it's gotten easier to convert for white without me having to show you the variation, right? I want you to see that you compare this position to this position. Here, the rooks don't have access to any squares sort of behind the black pawns. It's still kind of jammed up, and it's not clear what white's plan even is. Right? And then in my line here with d2, now the rooks are just open. So I hope you can feel that. In the game, we just got to move from Charlie, knight b4. Oh, just avoiding the knight trade and supporting the pawn. How obvious. Great move, Charlie. White takes it anyway. They must think they've got a back rank mate, but they don't. After a long battle, white has played a move too quickly and cracked. And folks, people who say, you know, oh, it's 99% tactics, oh, it's a tactical blunder. These kind of moments where somebody cracks after, you know, a long game or a long battle, these cracks, they happen because of all the effort that's gone into the moves up to that point, you know? Wait, does white have rook d3, knight d3, rook d1, and rook d8? But white couldn't have seen all that in 20 seconds when white took on d3, could they? That isn't possible. Chat, can anybody calculate that in 20 seconds? So like one branch is knight d3, rook e3. It's a pretty simple branch, I think. And then there's the second branch here. Maybe if you're really focused, actually, you could calculate that in 20 seconds. But, wow. Still makes me say, wow. I'm floored by that 20-second calculation by Leviathan. That's like incredible. And you'd think that it's such a critical move in the game, like you could lose instead of winning or draw, right? And you've got 10 minutes on the clock. You would think that he probably also double checked it. So did he calculate everything in 10 seconds and then double check it for another 10 seconds? That's really fast. That's really fast. But one thing that says he might have seen it all when he played knight d3 is that rook takes d3 and rook d1, each move came in like 5 seconds. So he he did expect this sequence from Charlie and just like answered it immediately. So that was some crazy calculation there. That's a funny answer, Brandon. Huh. Very impressive. Very impressive. Hockey Chess Dude, you got a slightly uncomfortable position out of the opening, but it was still a very close and interesting battle. Still a very close and interesting battle, yeah. And I think this D3 move helped White to kind of resolve things. If you play King F8 and A5, I don't know if you can yet say for sure that you lost in the opening. I think there's still, a viable defense still going, right? Like you still have some hopes, I think. All right. Now we're going to check out a couple games that have already ended. But I mean, it was like a great game. Gaurov played great. And you can tell how in shape Gaurav is. I mean, Gaurav calculated this knight takes d3 thing in like 20 seconds or pre-planned it while playing knight e5. Had already calculated that if knight b4 he was going to take anyway. I mean, that's impressive calculation. Just straight up impressive calculation. So I think it was a very interesting game. Yeah, I can feel that you managed to like pull your strength out of yourself and throw it at the game despite the fact that it's midnight and you're a dad with a job. Or a dad with another job. So I felt that you battled. It should be good. I mean, folks, let me just say this for everyone out there. You should be able to enjoy losing a game. If you can't enjoy losing a chess game, I would pretty much say you should not even play chess. If not that you should like enjoy every single kind of losing, right? But if you can't play a great game that's close and you play well and your opponent plays well and in the end you lose, if you can't enjoy that, it just doesn't make sense. You should switch to doing something else. I really think that. Like, we had some friends over a couple nights ago. We now have like friends over once a month, and we play some games. And we played a game called Monikers, where there's some like it's kind of like a very complicated version of charades or something, right? Like that. Yeah. Anyway, it's like a game, If like everybody who didn't win the game, we were on two teams. If everyone who didn't win the game was like, oh, that night sucked, like I didn't enjoy seeing my friends and chatting and playing a game because I lost. I mean, that would be too weird, right? Chess can't only be fun for the person who wins. Otherwise, it's just too many people are not winning, right? They're drawing or losing, and it doesn't make sense. So I've been accused of gatekeeping many times, no vest for the jury, despite the fact that I've basically dedicated thousands of hours to opening the gate. But yes, I get accused of that all the time. But I think it is an important point to state right here. Like, you should be able to enjoy losing a game, and if you can't enjoy losing a game, then maybe playing a game is not the best free time activity for you. All right, let's try and find this game between Gabriel and Jalp, and then depending how we're doing and how we're feeling, maybe we can call up Richard's game as well. Yeah, it's called monikers. All right, so let's go to the 1600 plus link. We'll be able to find them there. Click on middle game. Oh, Gabriel, you've got your own Twitch channel. Not a GM potato. You stream yourself. And you've got a quote from Mikhail Tal here. Later, I began to succeed in decisive games. I know this quote. He says, because I realized that it wasn't just me who was nervous, it was also my opponents, right? That's not word for word, but... Yeah, you two know best for the jury. Do you guys see our new game show? For our new game show, it's important to know your chess quotes. All right. No, you guys didn't see it. Okay, well, we'll probably publish it on YouTube at some point. But we did a new game show. We aired it live on, I want to say Wednesday. And basically it's like a chess trivia show. I thought we had a fun time. I thought it was a cool idea. I would do it again. Okay, so white outposts the knight on e5 to try and clamp black pieces away from the king side. And then I would guess that white has rather aggressive intentions, like g4, g5, or queen h3, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm feeling coming from Gabriel with this very fast knight e5 plunk. And, yeah, I messed that one up, Ash, yeah. You don't have to feel bad for wanting it, Charlie, but I unfortunately can't provide it right now. Oh. Read you like a person, Gabriel Cumming. I knew exactly what was coming. The main thing to do, Jout, when someone starts plunking a piece here and then starting an attack is to trade the darn piece, which it looks like you then did. My board is frozen. Is my stream not working? No, it's working. Now, Jout, the c5 move looks kind of lost, given this trade and how it happened, right? So I think if you sense that you're gonna have to trade this piece, you might want to just do it right away. Or if you want to play c5, then when they play g4, you have to trade. The point is you're opening up some other space to distract from what white's doing, right? So now, if you look at this position compared in the game with the c5 pawn, now you've got, the c file to counterattack if they ever castle queenside. You also can push d4, kick the knight and open up some central space, right? In an extreme case, you could even have variations like d4, knight e2, queen d5 the whole time with your knight hanging, right? And you get out of everything. Now, I don't think d4 works here because pawn takes, attacks the bishop. But I haven't really calculated it yet. I would guess it doesn't work. Bishop b4, a3. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't work. But if you're going to play c5, I think it makes sense that you want to then trade and open things up a little bit more. Otherwise, you could just trade right away. Takes, knight here. And then maybe f6. And maybe you don't even need to move the c-pawn at all. I don't know. Time would tell. So we get c5, g4, takes. Knight retreats. Queen h3 going for that mate. g6. defending it. Queen h6. Okay, so white wants to do this to you, huh? All right, you should not play d4, knight e4. There's an idea when you're under a wing attack, break in the center, right, folks? But you also have to calculate d4, knight e4 sends this knight towards your king. So that's a bad idea. You could play c4, grabbing space and kicking the bishop, but I'm not sure what the follow-up is. You could move this f-pawn looking for space for your pieces, right? So like f5 is always an option, but let's say gf. gf gets mated, ef, there's knight d5. Doesn't seem good. Finally, there's rook e8. If we expect Gabriel to play h4, that prepares bishop f8, trapping Gabriel's queen. Gabriel, did you have a plan that was to play h4 next? Would I be right to think that you wanted to play h4 next? Rook f8. Rook f to e8 might stop Gabriel's only plan, unless Gabriel's got more plans than that. I have often tried to checkmate with my queen like on h6, and sometimes I get my queen trapped, and then I'm like, oops, oh yeah, that can happen. Like, how did I forget again? There it is, h4, rook e8. So if h5, bishop f8. So here, white didn't go h5 because bishop f8, queen here, bishop e7 is a draw, I guess. Another interesting thing you could have done here, Jalp, another candidate move, is b5 to put the bishop on b7 and prepare these kind of moves. And then if h4, I guess then rook e8 is still in time, right? So I'm not pumped about c4, honestly. I don't mean to I can't tell you for sure that c4 is wrong, but I have a bad instinct about it. Anyway, let's see more. So you get this bishop f8 idea. White plays bishop g3. Kick her. Come here. Grab it. That looks pretty reasonable. So bishop g3 here is not played. I guess after h takes, the fact that you have an extra bishop doesn't matter too much. And there's no longer bishop g7 because of queen g7 and bishop c7. Interesting. So somehow taking this pawn has caused black grief? That's weird. It looked so exciting when you picked off the center pawn. Okay, knight on f8, hoping there's no mate. Trade a bitch. Okay, and now black's up a pawn, and black's king is weak. The position's interesting. Not clear if white has enough or not for the pawn. Don't know if white's winning, equal, or losing. Honestly, I don't know. I imagine you guys weren't super confident at this phase in the game either, whether you were winning or losing. I imagine neither player was feeling very sure of the evaluation here. You can't play e5 because of knight d5. This knight's busy, this rook's busy, this bishop wants to get out of the way. I guess b5 with the idea of maybe b4, b3 maybe makes the most sense. Rook f1. Maybe an unnecessary development move. Maybe just b4. Okay, black looks very comfortable here. And goes for b3 now. So there's not really like a clear idea to break through for white, right? They've got counterplay. They've got some of the black pieces passive, but they don't have an obvious way forward. So black has some time, you know. I mean, black here played b3. They could also, you know, play like a5, a4, because it's just not clear. White's not knocking on the door yet. Gabriel says b3 was a blunder. Yeah. Maybe black should just take it easy. a5, etc. Okay, I will see something clear. Takes, 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 takes. Queen e6. And the bishop on c6. Ay, ay, ay. So that's why your queen's on h3, not h4. I was thinking like, normally you'd want your queen on like the dark squares, f4 and stuff. And I was like, is there bishop g4 coming? Some kind of tactic. But okay, you have a very clear tactic planned here. Rook here. Oof. So a5 wouldn't have been good either. I mean, it would have been the same tactic. a5, rook f8, check. So black needed some kind of defensive move. Rook e7, bishop a8, king h8. There's like a pretty long list of them, but maybe even queen e5, a possible move. Just plunk her in the center. I don't know. But black was probably better much of this game. Just slightly. I'm thinking like the computer would say the extra pawn is slightly better for black. In old human terms, you know, it was pretty close and balanced and stuff. But I think in computer terms, computers would say, yeah, white doesn't quite have enough, and gradually, you know, black can improve their position. Even though their pieces look stupid, they just slowly improve their position with the A pawn as long as they stop white's threats. So now we've got rook against two minors. Pawns are equal. Black's looking for something. They trade pawns. Again, Zhao doesn't seem to want to move back and forth. Here, king here might be repeating positions. I don't know. Queen comes to f4. Nice. White's slowly improving the pieces. And white does the queen trade. Okay. Can that b pawn be saved? Oh, it doesn't need to be. The rook is lost. This is just like a tactic. It's a KO. GG. Some very nice tactics there from Gabriel. Gabriel, you seem like a pretty tactical player for somebody who's playing like a blocked opening to start the games off. Your tactics seem really sharp. Really sharp. Yeah, great game. All right, Ben Jovi. Let's have a look, because I think your opponent Richard over in the Twitch chat was also asking about that game. So let's see if we can't find it. Amon was always saying trading knights is a bad idea in the London videos. A bad idea for who, no vest for the jury? On what square? Give me some more context. You mean black shouldn't play knight takes e5 when white plays knight e5? I'm surprised to hear that. That is definitely different than my understanding. He's always criticizing knight e5. Huh. One of the things that I feel about it, no best for the jury, is normally the moment white plops the knight on e5, is the best moment for black to trade it and then counter. But the longer you wait around and let white build up behind the knight, the more impossible it becomes to trade it. That's my very, very general experience. There's, of course, many cases where you should definitely take and many cases where you should definitely not take. So, Ben Jovi, are you scalded by losses, Jim? When white has a pawn on f4, no best for the jury, then taking on e5 is often terrible. But it still needs to be considered because it often gets worse and worse the longer you wait. So even with the pawn on f4, you have to look at it. But yeah, with the pawn on f4, it does not feel desirable to take. But pawn on f4, I would think more like Stonewall than London, right? But yeah, in the London, I suppose you can play bishop g3 and then play f4, etc. And it's kind of like a Stonewall. Nice, Aman. Nice. So white trades on h6 and then simplifies the center here, because if black takes, white's going to trade queens and then win a pawn. Whichever piece recaptures is going to leave one pawn or the other undefended. Oh, that was snappy of white. So we get a trade here. Good night, Gabriel. Thanks for sharing your game with us. Hope you enjoyed it. I think you did. It looked like a fun game for sure. Is there a reverse London system for black? You can't force it, Ash. You know, if white plays d4, d5, c4, you can't play the London system for black. There's too much pressure from white against d5 and potentially b7. If white plays like a real aggressive Queen's Gambit type opening, you can't play it. Also, if white plays 1e4, you can't play the London system for black, right? But you can play a reverse London system for black against the reti. So if white plays like knight f3, c4, or knight f3, b3, bishop b2, if white plays like a real hypermodern opening, then you can play a reverse London system for black. Also against the birds opening, you can. So those are a few options. Okay, so black plays bishop e6, and white gets a good start on the game here with an extra pawn, trades here, extra pawn, knight c3, queen d7, gets castled, white's just slightly better, and then queen d4, and resigns in horror. But was this like a blitz game instead of a classical game? Oh yeah, this is a blitz game, not a classical game. So yeah, stuff like this happens in blitz. All right, friends. Oh, that's not the right game, Ben Jovi? Shoot. All right, help me find the right game. What's your name? I did ask you before I looked over the game. You just never answered. You know. So, I guess if you want to laugh at me, you can. But I clicked on your opponent, Richard, and then I asked if you were this opponent here. Nuck Day. Okay. Thanks, Richard. Whoa, it's way back here. You've played like 1,000,000 5-move blitz games in the last 10 minutes, huh? Oh, we saw the beginning of this game, but we didn't see the whole thing. So, yeah, let's have a look. Yeah. All right, so Richard finds the time to hold this pawn. That's why it's like a little bit risky to play ambitiously for black with c5. We talked about this. Like, I would want to do it, but it's a little bit risky, right? Here, if we take, then after knight d4, we have to defend these two things. Maybe it can work out with knight e7, but it's definitely a question. Or if we develop the knight now, white grabs here, and these pieces are kind of stuck. We have to spend a tempo to untangle them, and then white's got time to hold the pawn. Tries to win it back. Queen d2 gets it back. Okay, so black's doing pretty well here. My question would be if white plays a3, is black ever going to be able to get this pawn back, given that white has this b4 tactic? My feeling was my first feeling is after a3, it looks like white's going to be able to play b4, support that extra pawn, and black's still going to have a lot of work to do to even out the pawns here in the center. So I think Richard could have maybe made this pawn takes c5 strategy work with a3 here, using that b4 trick. Very nice trick, right? The Akaro is quite popular in the dojo, no less for the Dreer. I'm seeing it all the time on Friday Night Fights, actually. Every week. Yeah. Oh, by the way, folks, did you know that my Karo Khan course is out on Chess Dojo? I'm not a big communications and announcements guy, but my course is out. So if anyone's had a look, I am looking for feedback. So let me know. It's from the white perspective, by the way. It's not a black repertoire for the Karo. But it's not solely from the white perspective. It's really just sort of teaching you how to play the positions from both sides. But it doesn't cover all the white variations, right? It only covers the variation that I picked. Yeah. So it's 2 knights variation for white. So if you wanted to play the Karo Khan, you would, as black, you would need Jesse's repertoire on the dojo. He's got a full repertoire for black. But my thing is like it's only one variation from white, but the point is to teach you sort of positional chess. So, yeah. It just came out this week, Far Eastern, on April Fool's. Yeah. KRV, if you were on the Chess Dojo site, you would go to materials and then courses. And there it is. And then if you click into it, here we go. Intro, then there's some videos. I find that for me, I need to refresh them for them to show up for some reason. But anyway, here are the videos. Then there's analysis. sparring positions, model games, annotated games, etc. Okay, here's our caro game that we were just looking at. I bought very few Ash, but I did buy a couple when I was just starting out. Maybe in the first year that I played chess, I bought 1 or 2 opening books. I can only remember one. It was called Winning with the Bird Larson Attack. It was not a very good book. Yeah, and that might have been it. Yeah, Ben Jovi, being down a pawn from the get-go is a little bit annoying. In this position here, maybe instead of knight e7, letting white take your pawn, maybe there'd be 1 or 2 other moves you could look at, like maybe rook c8, supporting this square and this square to not give up the pawn. Maybe queen b6 is another possible move. I'm not sure. You know, every opening is more or less playable. Here you've got a glorious position now. Yeah, so black's position is nice here. You know, this pawn's a little bit weak. This pawn's a little bit strong. Your bishop's outside your pawn chain. This is, you know, a standard dream kind of Caro-Kann position. So I don't think this game should make you run away from your opening. After regaining the pawn, you felt good. So you made it happen. You made it happen. I'd been thinking about knight a4 here, and I was thinking that if I were black, I would play queen c4. But you're keeping control of like these dark squares with the queen, which also makes sense. And then you push. Oh, which also cuts off this knight. So white played b3 so that if you play b5, the knight can escape. Very good tactical awareness here, folks. Bishop g4. I guess it's not clear what you want to do with this d-pawn, right? You're not sure that you want to push it forward or trade it. I think this rook should be developed before getting into too much fighting, but there's also an interesting question whether you could go here. b5, knight b2, queen c5, attacking that pawn. And then if a4, maybe you can grab this pawn. That's an important variation to consider in this game. Also, you have a funky move queen c3 here, which I'm not exactly sure what white does about that knight. Because potentially the idea is if white trades and you take back and they come here, you just trade everything. And then make a supported pass pawn on c3. Strangely, it looks like a super good endgame for black. I'm not exactly sure why suddenly you had such a powerful continuation possible. But this b5 knight b2, I think the knight just got so awkward, and that's really the justification of your d4 move, right? The knight was on a4. Right? You move your queen away, and then you cut the knight off. And I think the only thing that really like makes this move powerful is if you keep exploiting the knight. So actually this looks pretty strong. Queen c5, attacking the pawn, and maybe even queen c3 is just good. This variation I went quickly here, Ben, but I mean, you see the idea. We're threatening this knight. And it doesn't really have somewhere to go, right? It's not as fancy as like, you know, a queen sack or something, but it's as hard to calculate. The prize at the end is a very good endgame. It's not, you know, a checkmate or an extra piece, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I don't know. The more basic thing you could be doing here as black would be putting your rook on c8 and playing on the c file. That's like basic, less specific, less calculation based. Would be to put this rook on the open file. Okay, you went for the trade and then doubling rooks behind your pawn. And your opponent, I was about to say, they're like, the knight's coming back from a4. They're going to stabilize the position, but you got this pawn just in time. So now you're nicely ahead by a pawn. That's great. Very comfortable position with the extra pawn, actually. Cool. Did white have ways to protect this pawn? Let's have a look. So trade. That was kind of the idea of bishop g4, I guess, is you're weakening this pawn. g6 defending the pawn. Now I have to wonder if you couldn't just take right away. I'm being sneaky here, Ben. Let's see if you can figure out what my sneaky point is here. Why might you be able to take the pawn on e5 instead of defending your pawn here? Right? You thought this pawn's weak. You'll protect this pawn. You'll try to win it later. The first thing I thought here was, the rook is on the line with this pawn. Is there some way for me to tactically just take this pawn and not defend mine? So, can you figure out what I had in mind? All right. Any knight move reveals the rook attack on the queen. Exactly. So if they take this pawn back, you've got a moment to look at every aggressive knight move. Sometimes a retreating knight move might be good, but first you want to see, is there anything valuable that you can attack with your knight? All right? So you're on exactly the right path, Ben. Now, looking at these options, is there any move that you think looks like it might get you something? Right. Yeah. I hope Ash didn't spoil it for you, but congrats to Ash on finding the right move, and to you as well on putting it together. Knight d3, attacking these rooks, and the queen, and very important point, your rook's defended. This idea would not work if your rook weren't defended, right? White would play queen takes rook, and you would rue the day you tried to be sneaky, right? Though you shouldn't rue it too much. That's how we get better. We have to try things, even if we don't always get them right. But yeah, I think knight e5 was already a very good idea for you here, Ben, because of this hidden defense and the tactics. So you can just start eating your pawn right away. After you play g6, white's got to move to try to defend this pawn, right? So they could go queen f4, queen f6, something like that. They try to find time to bring the knight around, but then you did grab the pawn, right? So Richard, who's being a little bit disappointed, I think you should have probably defended your pawn before starting to work on this knight. Yeah. Okay, so let's pursue the game. Black gets a pawn. White keeps fighting. And now we're going to see what kind of endgame skills Nuke Day has. So what's the idea? Is White trying to play e4? The knight would come back. Sorry, is Black trying to play e4? The knight would come back to f4. Not clear. Maybe White just wants to support the pawn. The rook is oddly placed. Normally you'd play like f6, king f7, bring your king into the middle, put your rook on the c file. But here we've got this weird rook on f5. We either have to make use of it or it's going to be very bad there potentially. So that's a little bit awkward. Knight f6 and the game just ends with resignation. Well, that's odd, Richard. I guess you got depressed or something? It's just one pawn. You can just keep playing along, no problem. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. This rook is awkward over here. I don't even know what the winning plan is for Black. You know, maybe Black's winning because they have an extra pawn. Maybe not. Losing a pawn is enough to depress Novest. I agree. You know, there's many situations in chess that are depressing. Very, very many. You were getting mated? Well, I can assure you, you're not getting mated. That shows a little bit of unrealistic fear. You're not going to be mated. Black just moved a knight away from your king. There's nobody threatening your king at all. You just, move your rook back to e2 or e1 and just keep playing. You're thinking maybe rook f3 to try and get your rook back into the game, right? But that is usually going to drop your extra pawn, right? So, it's very hard to figure out, huh? You had a lot of work ahead of you, right, Ben? A lot of work ahead of you. You were going to need your full 10, 13 minutes and increment to play this position out. It's very tricky. So yeah, just a little discouragement there from Richard here. So, I don't mean to say that you have a poor mentality, Richard. It's just useful to notice little patterns of, there are people who are always overlooking their opponent's ideas, other people who are always scared of ideas that aren't even really there, right? Sometimes called scared of ghosts. So, always useful to know how your tendencies are, right? To get sort of a reality check from somebody else, right? Who says I see that you're overly fearful, or I see that you've got the healthy respect for your opponent, or etc. Very useful for calibrating ourselves. So once you lost your queen, you just felt lost. So basically you don't feel much joy in the endgame, maybe, Richard. That was me for much of my career. I lost endgames where I had 2 or 3 extra pawns instead of having less pawns even than my opponents. So you weren't enjoying this twisting and turning in the endgame, huh? I can certainly appreciate and commiserate with that. But insofar as it may be useful to you, I just want to let you know that it does not seem to me like your position is particularly bad here, So, I think, yeah, just however that may help. Or be a little bit useful. Okay. So, folks, I think we're going to wrap up the show there.